Subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon, to never miss a video from us. Hi, welcome to our interview preparation series. The video contains some of the most commonly asked Azure fundamental questions in an interview. So let's get started. Question 1. In Azure Cloud Services, what are cloud services roles? Answer. Azure Cloud Services is an example of a platform as a service. The cloud services are hosted on virtual machines. You have more control over the VMs. You can install your own software on VMs that use Azure Cloud Services, and you can access them remotely. There are two types of Azure Cloud Services roles. One is web role, and the other is worker role. The only difference between the two is how your role is hosted on the VMs. Let's discuss each of these roles in detail. Web role automatically deploys and hosts your app through Internet Information Service. A web role is basically used to deploy a website, using languages supported by the Internet Information Service platform, like PHP, .NET, etc. It is configured and customized to run web applications. Worker role does not use Internet Information Service, and runs your app standalone. A worker role is more like a help to the web role. It used to execute background processes, unlike the web role, which is used to deploy the website. With Azure Cloud Services, you don't create virtual machines. Instead, you provide a configuration file that tells Azure how many of each you'd like, such as 3 web role instances and 2 worker role instances. The platform then creates them for you. You still choose what size those backing VMs should be, but you don't explicitly create them yourself. If your application needs to handle a greater load, you can ask for more VMs, and Azure creates those instances. If the load decreases, you can shut down those instances and stop paying for them. Question 2. Which role is a virtual machine instance, running Microsoft Internet Information Service web server, that can accept and respond to HTTP or HTTPS requests? A. Web. B. Server. C. Worker. Or D. Client? The answer would be A. Web. There are no roles such as server or client roles. Also, worker roles can only communicate with Azure Storage or through direct connections to clients. Question 3. What are virtual machine scale sets in Azure? Answer. Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets let you create and manage a group of identical, load-balanced VMs. The number of VM instances can automatically increase or decrease in response to demand or a defined schedule. Scale sets provide high availability to your applications and allow you to centrally manage, configure, and update a large number of VMs. With virtual machine scale sets, you can build large-scale services for areas such as compute, big data, and container workloads. Scale sets provide the following key benefits. The ease to create and manage multiple VMs. Scale sets provides high availability and application resiliency. Scale sets allows your application to automatically scale as resource demand changes. And scale sets work at large scale. Question 4. What is an availability set? An availability set is a logical grouping of VMs that allows Azure to understand how your application is built, to provide redundancy and availability. It is recommended that 2 or more VMs are created within an availability set, to provide for a highly available application, and to meet the 99.95% Azure SLA. When a single VM is used with Azure Premium Storage, the Azure SLA applies for unplanned maintenance events. Question 5. What are fault domains? Answer. A fault domain is a logical group of underlying hardware that share a common power source and network switch, similar to a rack, within an on-premise data centers. As you create VMs within an availability set, the Azure platform automatically distributes your VMs across these fault domains. This approach limits the impact of potential physical hardware failures, network outages, or power interruptions. Question 6. Do scale sets work with Azure availability sets? Answer. Yes. A scale set is an implicit availability set with 5 fault domains and 5 update domains. Scale sets of more than 100 VMs span multiple placement groups, which are equivalent to multiple availability sets. An availability set of VMs can exist in the same virtual network as a scale set of VMs. A common configuration is to put control node VMs in an availability set and put data nodes in the scale set. 7. What are the differences between subscription administrator and directory administrator? Answer. By default, one is assigned the subscription administrator role when he or she signs up for Azure. A subscription admin can use either a Microsoft account, or a work, or school account, from the directory that the Azure subscription is associated with. This role is authorized to manage services in the Azure portal. If others need to sign in and access services by using the same subscription, you can add them as co-admins. Azure AD has a different set of admin roles to manage the directory and identity-related features. These admins will have access to various features in the Azure portal, or the Azure Classic portal. The admin's role determines what they can do, like create or edit users, assign administrative roles to others, reset user passwords, manage user licenses, or manage domains. Are there any scale limitations for customers using managed disks? Answer: Managed disks eliminates the limits associated with storage accounts. However, the number of managed disks per subscription is limited to 2,000 by default. What is the difference between service bus queues and storage queues? Answer: The Azure Storage Queue is simple and the developer experience is quite good. It uses the local Azure Storage emulator, and debugging is made quite easy. The tooling for Azure Storage Queues allows you to easily peek at the top 32 messages, and if the messages are in XML or JSON, you're able to visualize their contents directly from Visual Studio. Furthermore, these queues can be purged of their contents, which is especially useful during development and QA efforts. The Azure Service Bus queues are evolved and surrounded by many useful mechanisms that make it enterprise-worthy. They are built into the service bus and are able to forward messages to other queues and topics. They have a built-in dead letter queue, and messages have a time to live that you control, hence messages don't automatically disappear after 7 days. Azure Service Bus queues have the ability of deleting themselves after a configurable amount of idle time. This feature is very practical when you create queues for each user, because if a user hasn't interacted with a queue for the past month, it automatically gets cleaned up. It's also a great way to drive costs down. You shouldn't have to pay for storage that you don't need. These queues are limited to a maximum of 80 GB. Once you've reached this limit, your application will start receiving exceptions. What do you mean by a blob, and what are their types? Blob is a binary large object that is composed of any size and type of file. There are mainly two types of blob, one is page blob, and other is the block blob. Is it possible to add an existing VM to an availability set? The answer is no. If you want your VM to be part of an availability set, you need to CR. What are the username requirements when creating a VM? The following usernames mentioned in the table are not allowed. How much storage can I use with a virtual machine? Each data disk can be up to 1 TB. The number of data disks which you can use depends on the size of the virtual machine. Azure Managed Disks are the new and recommended disk storage offerings for use with Azure Virtual Machines for persistent storage of data. You can use multiple managed disks with each virtual machine. Managed disks offer two types of durable storage options: Premium and Standard Managed Disks. Azure Storage accounts can also provide storage for the operating system disk and any data disks. What are the various power states of a VM? The answer is mentioned in the table below. Question 15. My web app still uses an old Docker container image after I've updated the image on Docker Hub. Does Azure support continuous deployment of custom containers? Yes, it does. For private registries, you can update the container by stopping and then restarting your web app. Alternatively, you can also change or add a dummy application setting to force an update of your container. What are stateful and stateless microservices for Service Fabric? Service Fabric enables you to build applications that consist of microservices. Stateless microservices, such as protocol gateways and web proxies, do not maintain a mutable state outside a request and its response from the service. Azure Cloud Services Worker roles are an example of a stateless service. Stateful microservices, such as user accounts, databases, devices, shopping carts, and queues, maintain a mutable, authoritative state beyond the request and its response. Today's internet-scale applications consist of a combination of stateless and stateful microservices. What are the three principal segments of Windows Azure Platform? Windows Azure has three principal segments: Compute, Storage, and Fabric. First, Windows Azure Compute. Windows Azure gives a code that can be managed by the hosting environment. It gives the calculation benefit through parts. Windows Azure backs 3 types of roles. Number 1. Web roles utilized for web application programming, and upheld by IIS 7. Number 2. Worker roles utilized for foundation handling of web roles. Number 3. Virtual machine roles utilized for moving Windows Server applications to Windows Azure in a simple way. Second, Windows Azure Storage. It gives 4 types of storage services. Number 1. Queues for informing between web parts and worker roles. Number 2. Tables for storing structural data. Number 3. Binary large objects to store contents, records, or vast information. Number 4. Windows Azure drives to mount a page blob. These can be transferred and downloaded by means of blobs. Third, Windows Azure App Fabric. App Fabric provides 5 services. Number 1. Service Bus. Number 2. Access. Number 3. Caching. Number 4. Integration. Number 5. Composite. What are the different types of storage areas in Windows Azure? First, blob. Blobs offer a component for storing a lot of content, or binary data, for example, pictures, audio, and visual documents. They can scale up to 200 terabytes, and can be acquired by utilizing REST APIs. Second, table. Tables represent storage areas across machines for information that is in the form of properties on the cloud. Third, line. The sole target of a queue is to empower communication among web and worker role instances. They help in storing messages that may be accessed by a customer. What is Azure Service Level Agreement? The Service Level Agreement describes Microsoft's commitments for uptime and connectivity. How is Azure Resource Manager beneficial over the classic services? The benefits of the Azure Resource Manager that overshadows the benefit of the classic services are: first, the resources need not be managed, deployed, or monitored one at a time. They are chain deployment activities throughout the life cycle without the need for individual data handling. Second, the data is also deployed at a consistent pace with the ARM service. It enables the user to use a declarative template that indicates the deployment. Third, since the role-based control is present in the management platform, that provides you with the access to the resources that leads you to control. Fourth, you can mark dependencies between the resources that enable you to get the correct order of deployment. Fifth, the resources may be tagged and organized logically so that it is convenient to follow up the billing of your company. State what will you do in case of a drive failure. When there is an instance that the drive has failed, the following steps should be performed. The first is that the drive should not be mounted, enabling the object storage to function without fail. The second scenario is replacing the drive, in which the desired step will be remounting, formatting the drive. State what should be done in case of a service failure. In the case of the service failure, the following steps need to be performed. First, ensure that the object services have stopped running, which will enable the object services to withstand the failure. Second, to complete the last lap of work pending, you can allow the system object storage remain functional by making the machine to again get back to online. Once they are started, the online replication will instantly activate with the missing updated files. Third, if you are incapable to replace drive, then do remove the drive, and let the system stay not mounted. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel.